on who Nigeria's next president would be, Premium Times published an editorial titled "An Anxious Wait for the President-elect and the Tasks Ahead." This editorial noted how anxiety and fear is fueled by INEC's failure to upload results of polling units to the INEC result viewing portal IREV. The editorial also concluded that the next president-elect already has his work cut out. It said the next president must address the issue of poverty and insecurity while also taking serious the appointment of individuals with impressive track records into the cabinet. And another story published by Premium Times was a profile of the president-elect. This was published yesterday, a profile, the man Tinubu and his thorny path to presidential victory. Now, this piece profiled the president-elect and his role in politics, which began in 1992 when he represented the Lagos West Senatorial District in the National Assembly. Since then, the author chronicled all of Mr. Tinubu's activities in the Nigerian political scene. And unlike his three major opponents, this was Mr. Tinubu's first time contesting for the presidential seat, according to the profile. Well, there are more stories on the premiumtimesng.com, unique analysis, as well as, the updates of the presidential election, as well as infographics you can find on our website. Now we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we will be, we'll be looking at the speeches of the president-elect, both the speech he gave as an acceptance speech when he was announced the winner, and the one he gave after receiving his certificate of return yesterday. Stay with us.
Every minute stories that helps you make informed decisions and hold public officials, individuals and organizations accountable. We have cartoons, videos, podcasts and other interesting content for your delight. For timely update on politics.
Welcome back and thank you for staying tuned. If you just joined us, this is 93.7 Citizen FM and this is Premium Times Half Hour, brought to you by Premium Times. So we are looking at the speeches of Nigeria's president-elect. And listeners, you can join in, but that will be later on the program. For now, let's turn to our analyst, Mr. Bakari Majid, who from the Premium Times National Desk. Good morning, welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure.
Well, so I take it that you have read and listened to perhaps both the speeches of the president-elect. What do you make of those speeches?
It's conformed with what we expected from him, which is we are at a time where the nation is very, very divided, and the outcome of the election is still subject of a lot of disputes, in a way. So normally it is expected that there should be a sense of unity. So the speech has to be toned that way so that you tell people and say, look, elections are over. What we need to do right now is to get the country moving. And how do we get the country moving? Is by giving people that reassurance that we are all together irrespective of the outcome of the election. So it was majorly an infusion of two things. There was the part where it was more, comic nature, trying to make people laugh, jabs here and there. And at the same time, the serious part, I say, okay, I'm willing and I'm ready. And even when he was accepting his the certificate of return, he made it known. I said, I understand that some of you did not vote for me. I understand that some of you are angry, which is legitimate. But however, the work of nation building must involve everybody. And we are at a time whereby some of the things that we have ahead of us, particularly the challenges currently that the country is currently facing, is going to require a lot of decisions to be made in the next 3 months where it will be sworn in. So this is not a partisan affair, because let me give you an example. On the fuel subsidy thing, the budget for 2023 only makes provision for for June or up to June.
Okay.
So the new administration must be able to make a decision
on whether they will continue.
We are removing it, or we are making provision for it. And although all the candidates in the build up to the election, I mean the four major candidates, they all agree and said this has to go. But he's wanting to talk about subsidy.
It's another thing to actually.
Is another thing to implement it. So you need to be able to come together to talk about that. So there are a whole lot of things that the administration must be able to hit the ground running. So if you now allow partisan politics, because some persons are even suggesting that there should be a national government whereby, irrespective of political parties, that it should not be a winner takes it or approach this time around. I say let us have, because if you look at the spread of the vote, it has a lot of regional agenda into it. South is going in one direction, South is going in another direction, and you see so generally the tone, the way he approached it, I think is really, really important that we go, in that direction and say, okay, there is a need for national unity. Why those who are aggrieved maybe can also use the available constitutional platform, which is probably the presidential tribunal or to the level of the Supreme Court. But why we are that, Yoruba people say, if you spend a lot of time, preparing that cow meat, people have to eat. So Nigerians, their life must go on. The elections have really, really disrupted a lot of economic activities, whatnot. We have this naira, swap, whatever, and the hardship that it's bringing. So there are a lot of issues. So the last thing you need now is a country that is, also, still divided along that line.
Thank you for that, Mr. Bakari. And I have in the studio my co-presenter, Chiamaka Okafo.
Hi, Kosem. Good morning.
And welcome.
Thank you.
So, Majid, we've talked about the, some grievances, and we've in fact see it played out from the Coalition Center to a couple of press briefings by the other major, candidates. And the three of them, from the NNPP to the Labour Party to the PDP, are calling for the cancellation of results and the conduct of another election. Now, Tinubu is saying that they should work with him. In fact, I saw a story that says that Tinubu has actually, constituted a reconciliatory committee to approach these guys. Do you see them working with him?
You see, the beauty of constitutional democracy is that there are always room to seek redress, and that is why you have separation of power that allows, let the body making law to be on one side, the body executing it to be on one side, and the body adjudicating on issues to be on another side. And every citizen has a constitutional right to be able to approach the court to seek redress. So there's a time lag between when you are going to approach the court and when the judgment is going to happen, and in between that, life is not going to stop. So while he may be, which is normal, to be able to reach out and seek for reconciliation and say, okay, let us work together, but those people also are within their right to say, look, I feel I've been fairly untreated, or there's an injustice done to me, so therefore the court should give me some form of, how would I put it, some form of justice. So those processes are going to go on like that. So, at the end of the day, politicians will always be politicians. So in as much as possible, they try to not to keep the door locked entirely. I could remember between 1999 when the General Olusegun Obasanjo came on board, he made certain efforts to some form of national government, because I could remember Chief Bola Ige was in that particular administration, and they were not on the same political platform as that then. So as we continue to grow democratically, we must understand that the game may later be a game of Ndoro, like pull on one side. So pardon the way I've just murdered the Igbo language.
Pronounce it perfectly, actually.
Okay, at least I'll be giving a pass mark. Maybe I had on that. So at the end of the day, you must be able to reach out, but at the same time, it's within your right to decide whether you want to join your opponent or not. So it's on two sides. You may be willing, wishing to have that, while on the other side, another person is saying, no, look, I'm not going to do that, probably because it may be an ideological issue, self, and say, I do not agree with you, with everything you stand for, so therefore I'm staying away. So I'm not really banking too much on this talk of a national of reconciliation. But what I'm hoping for as an individual is that there's a need to really tune down the rhetorics, bring it down a little bit. Whatever you're doing now, I expect that, forensic analysts, that data scientists should be able to be in a room now, looking at the looking at some of the reports that they have from polling unit to the world center to local government to state, put it together. You can even prepare a preliminary report, send it to us. Let us even verify it too. Because, for example, at Premium Times, we had a lot of guys, across a lot of polling units across the country, who also, collected, took note of, outcomes of results in different polling units at ward level, coalition centers, and the rest. So we may also be part of this, because if we reduce it to the media battle, at the end of the day, it will just be a potpourri of confusion where you you hear this one from this side, you just get to a point and say, I don't even understand what is going on. So the rhetorics really need to really go down on all sides, so that we can now continue to move ahead, because the challenges ahead are just too enormous for us to get bogged down on this election thing.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Majid. And dear listeners, you can also, give us your contribution on this program, and the lines to call are 090-3222-9797 or 081-8222-2205, 081-8222-206. You can also call 090-3222-9797. You can as well call 081-8222-2205 or 081-8222-2206. You can start, keep the calls coming. But meanwhile, we can still go back to our analysts while we await your calls.
Yeah, thank you, Majid, for being here in the studio today. And that was one speech. I'm trying to watch your language, one speech from the president-elect. But there are a lot of challenges. It's a cocktail of wahala currently in Nigeria. I'm trying to borrow your own way of doing this thing to you. You have all the right words and expressions for it. So a lot of wahala really in the Nigerian landscape. The politics is shaking. A lot of things are shaking in this country, and the president-elect has his work cut out for him. That's if at the end of the day the tribunals and all the legal battles are over and he settles down to start work, there's a lot of work for him to do. Did you see that he addressed these challenges in his speech yesterday?
I'm sure even he himself must understand it, because there are two parts to this speech. There's the already pre-written one that he read, but in between, he tries as much as possible to go off script and talk about some of those other things that he considers that he cares about. Talking about 4 years course will be 4 years course, no more strike, we're going to bring you students loans. But irrespective of the rhetorics, actions has to be seen. We've done talking now for over a year, from the primary elections to the main elections. So now people are expecting certain actions, and for the first time, because the incumbent president has already taken down, lowered certain expectations. For example, I've spoken to 4 of my colleagues yesterday in the newsroom. I said, what is the particular thing that you're going to see? And you said, okay, I think we're in the right direction. And what that person told me is that, look, I want to see the kind of cabinet that this man will be putting together, because the essence of the major fulcrum of his campaign was that I have the talent for putting together solid team, and even in his word he said, I have the capacity for teamship. So people are looking and say, who are the people you're going to bring on board? Is it the same set of politicians that you're going to bring on board? Would it be, compensation for maybe governors or senators that lost election, probably because of the tsunami that happened, at the political landscape? Are you going to turn, political appointment to some form of, compensations to your friends and your accusers? So, as it stands now, that is the standard that everybody is looking at. So, like I added to it the other time, what is going to become the fate of the fuel subsidy? What is going to become the fate of this Naira cash crunch? Because if you remember quite vividly, a couple of northern governors actually campaigned in their geopolitical zone, saying that, look, if Bola Tinubu becomes president, is going to reverse this. Some of them even told their citizens and said, continue to spend your own money. Someone is coming and that person is going to keep this. So it shows you the kind of work that is expected. So it's not going to be on rhetoric, because talks are more like symbolic gesture. But what people want to see is that kind of action. Who exactly are you bringing on board? Who are those people who are going to help you to actualize this vision? And immediately people do not have. And if you remember the incumbent president, it took him about 6 months or thereabout, I can't be sure,
put up the cabinet.
in 2015. So people will be expecting. And the man already said it. He said, because during his conversation with NESG, he said, when he was asked, what should Nigeria be expecting from you if you're elected? He said, the first day I will eat the ground running, and the second day I will eat the ground running, the third day I will continue to run. So those few days, the expectation will be like, let us see what you're bringing on board. So
okay, talking about the kind of people he'll be appointing in his cabinet and bringing on board, the president-elect in his speech mentioned something about the youth and about women. And looking at his current team, from the campaign team and the people around him, do you see young people participating really in his cabinet or in his government? See,
I don't want to hold brief for him, but I think we've seen a couple of, because I'll draw your mind back to the dinner or lunch that he had with the tech sector, I think somewhere in Lagos. I think it was Oando building in somewhere around the Victoria Island also, where it was over the next day on Twitter, a lot of people actually got angry because they saw a lot of their favorite tech guys who actually attended that event, and he spoke and talked about setting up different committees, for them in sectorial this thing along that line, so that they can work with him. So I won't really be surprised, and I will seen a couple of ladies around him too. I think Adiza Bala Mohammed, she's been all around. They will see Beta Edu. I don't know if I got the name correctly. So yeah, I think that's
the women leader.
Yeah, the women leader who has been around. So I won't really be surprised, because at the end of the day, Nigerians must understand one thing: election is just one part of it. The continuous engagement and demand, to monitor and say, how well are you implementing this thing? Because the standards that we are asking for is not really that big. And I think along the line of his manifesto, I'm trying for my memory to serve me correctly, and I think he talked about a specific number, like the minimum threshold that we can. So, interestingly, in this election, we all have their manifesto. So, it's something we can hold in on to, because it's not really hard for you to fulfill the 35% affirmative action. I'm not really sure that it's that hard. And nowadays, even the definition of who a youthful person is has been so liberalized to an extent that even if at the end of the day, if you appoint a 45 years old person, people will say, okay, that's a young person, because we have a democracy that has grown over time. I'm not naive as a person. There are governors who worked with him in the process of this electionary campaign. Therefore, there will be some of them that we will see. So at the end of the day, it's the balance is what is important, and how you handle some